It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 9th of January, 2020. Good evening and thank you for tuning in to the English edition of Ora News. My name is Christopher, bringing you the only update of the local Albanian news translated into English. Albania is not excluded from Iran's retaliation for the death of General Qasem Soleiman. U.S. General Michael Barbero said during a meeting in Tirana that our country should be on alert for any possible attack. Unfortunately, any U.S. friend or ally of ours can be seen as a target. For this reason, vigilance is very important, especially in the cyber domain. Albania must be cautious in its counterterrorism efforts. Barbero named Iranian General Qasem Soleimani the Middle East instability architect. According to him, the decision to kill Soleimani was even more important than the assassination of Osama bin Laden or Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The attack to kill Qasem Soleiman was significant. He was the architect of any kind of instability. 700 U.S. soldiers have died from these weapons as a result of Qasem Soleimani's leadership. His killing was completely justified, and we will face the consequences ourselves. But in addition to possible attacks from Iran, Russia and China are some of the newer dangers posed to the North Atlantic Alliance. I told the minister that you have a choice to make, either an ally with the U.S. or the West or with China. And he told me there is a problem, we can deal with China. So I'm telling you a story of a woman who smiled at the tiger and then was eaten by it. You may think that you can make a deal with China now, but the tiger is that China and eventually will eat up many of our friends. You can never have a free lunch with China. When it comes to the issue of national security, politics also transcends its divisions. Minister Pandeli Maiko and former Minister Fatmir Mediu said the problems of the Middle East are also knocking on Albania's door, so cooperation is important. The positions were given at the recent NATO summit in Tirana, initiated by Fatmir Mediu in the Center for Security in Southeastern Europe. Prime Minister Edi Rama, during his speech in Vienna as the head of the OSCE, outlines the program for the presidency. He said changing Albania without the presence of the OSCE would be impossible, expressing gratitude for the organization's efforts. In this extraordinary moment for my country, since the foundation of the OSCE 45 years ago, Albania really was the North Korea of Europe, a society stubbornly isolated and fueled by hatred against the free world. Albania was the only European state that not only refused to join the OSCE, but also denounced its creation at the time as an expression of moral degeneration. I did not like the OSCE very much while my party was in government and while I was head of the opposition. Despite jokes surrounding this matter, one thing is crystal clear, that if I look back and try to imagine Albania's journey towards change without the presence of the OSCE, I realize that this would have been totally impossible, Rama said. Prime Minister Edi Rama feels proud that Albania has become part of what he called the humanitarian operation to house the Mujahideen, a reminder that this country is part of NATO. Every attack on our country is an attack on NATO. At the press conference with journalists from Vienna, Rama further said, "We know very well that taking the step in involving humanitarian operation, we have taken a risk. I'm very proud that this risk has been undertaken in a bipartisan manner in the light of obligations of an indispensable strategic alliance with the United States. On the other hand, we must remember that we are members of NATO, and every attack on our country is an attack on NATO itself. Anyone who might have imagined our involvement in NATO as a moment of merely celebrating a new status, rather than a moment of actual engagement, must rethink what they have heard. We live in a world where we face the dangers and enemies of freedom and democracy. We are proud to be helpful alongside an alliance that fights for a better world." The disturbing criminal situation that struck the country earlier this year was at the center of messages that clergy representatives issued during the annual Goodyear Shkodra in Albania's northernmost coastal city. Archbishop Angelo Masafra had also a special prayer for the tense situation in Iraq and Iran, asking for peace in the Middle East. "The situation is very difficult. With war, everything is a loss," said Masafra. In a time of great tension between the U.S. and Iran, Archbishop of Shkodra, Monsignor Angelo Masafra, held in a prayer the hopes that the heads of state would end the war. "I do this only by paraphrasing the words of the Pope, as I believe in the possibility of peace." Orthodox parish priest Nicholas Petani appealed to the younger generation and focused on the situation in the country. It issued an alarm about the serious criminal situation that has engulfed the country since the early days of 2020. More confident in his ability to do better in the city of Shkodra was the message of Mayor Voltana Ademi. This message of the Father, Pope Francis, was read in the context of World Peace Day. 16 years after the tragedy of January 9th, the families of victims who lost their lives are still seeking justice. The tragedy occurred near the city of Vlora in 2004 when the 36 clandestine sailboats set off in a troubled sea towards Italy, where 6 boats sunk, beginning their short-lived journey from the Bay of Palas. As a result of the drowning of the 28 people lost their lives, where the victims were mainly from the area of Skoldra and were the ages of 15 to 33 years old. Disappointed by all levels of the judiciary, families members openly hope this is through the new special anti-corruption and organized crime structure. We have made many requests to pass on serious crimes, but they have not done so yet. Now, on the occasion that SPAC has been created and is making a fuss about bringing justice to Albania, we urge them to take over the case at Vlora's prosecutor's office and whitewash it. It is written in black and white and has been verified by every means, said Nicole Mihilai, head of the association. For Ndoc Bieshka, who lost his only son in the tragedy, he stresses that this event should be discouraged after the Italian state declared that the dead bodies have been found hidden from the Albanian state, therefore making an appeal to SPAC prosecutors. The family members of the victims have concrete names, stating that they will file a lawsuit against those who have organized child trafficking. The names of former police director Bayram Ibrai have not been spared, also including former ministers Igli Toska and Pandeli Michael. The National Defense Inspectorate has launched a series of demolitions in the neighborhood of Astir. The demolition of the premises paves the way for the construction of the ring road. Work began in the early hours of the morning without any resistance from residents. Today alone, 5 objects were demolished, while another building demolished is planned for tomorrow. In an action that began today at 6 a.m., the National Defense Inspectorate of the territory demolished 5 buildings in the Astir area along the new ring road. The facilities were 1 story, 2 stories, and 4 stories high. Meanwhile, a 6-story building will be demolished tomorrow with a controlled explosion. Along with the 35 demolished buildings in the previous few days of work, their number increased to 41 as far as Lot 1 is concerned. The National Defense announcement reads, there were also numerous police forces in the area to cope with any possible situation between residents and the police. This situation has caused a disruption amongst the citizens who, when the work began, were blocked into the streets. The demolishing of houses in the area has occasionally been accompanied by tensions as residents seek full market compensation. Residents, also backed by the opposition, accuse the government that the project to build a new ring road in the area is a corrupt affair. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Ora News, thank you and good night.